been a hot start to the 2025 1UP Turbo Truck Series season. 2 races in, 2 first-time winners to start the year, and we are here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where the chances are high that we could get a third such winner in the first 3 races. This beautiful mile-and-a-half oval has got a lot in store for us today. 3 wide racing as far as the eye can see, a lot of lead changes, a lot of action-packed racing, and this is only the first race of the weekend. We got 3 of them on tap for this weekend, and it all starts here for the trucks with 60 laps around Atlanta. And alongside me to bring you all the action once again is Ryan Griffin with us today. Great to have you with us. So, Atlanta, it's sort of like... It's like a super speedway, except we don't have those big packs that we have. The draft is not as big a deal, but we're going to see just as much passing. We're going to see just as much action. What is it about this place that really screams action?
It's a driver's racetrack. Atlanta Motor Speedway is, speaking as a driver, Atlanta Motor Speedway is a blast if you're a driver because there's multiple ways to run this racetrack. You're not just sucked to the bottom of the racetrack like on a super speedway or one particular line on a road course. At Atlanta, you can move just about anywhere on this racetrack and make time and make speed. It's about moving around. This place is just fun to drive if you're a driver, and that's why we see the action we do here, is because the drivers just love this place. And it's so much action, and basically it's fun to, as a fan, it's also fun to watch because you can almost see the drivers are loving it as they're doing it, and it's just a blast. And that's the biggest thing, is I think it's just a blast for the drivers. You ask some drivers like myself, I hate road course racing, but you ask other drivers, they love it. But this is one racetrack. It's like you can go anywhere on this track, you can pass. You're not stuck behind somebody because of where you have to be on the track. You have the ability to pass somebody, and you don't know how that's big as a driver and how much we drivers love the ability to pass, So, yeah, it's just going to be a blast race today. I love watching this race, and being in the booth to watch it is going to be even more... Yeah, it's like I'm a fan this time now instead of a driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And with a quick look at how the top 20 is shaping up after Richmond a couple of weeks ago, we had a big shakeup in the points, as we expected, because of the oddball results at Daytona can shuffle things up. Francois Chastain leads the points after 2 races by 4 over his teammate Justin Whitmer. John McFadden, strong start to the year, he is 3rd. Daytona winner Derek Hamill's fallen to 4th in the points, still only 13 behind. But one thing to note about this positioning in the points, we've got all 3 of the Finguy-Psytomi trucks in the top 10 now, thanks to A.F. Walsh's spectacular win last time out at Richmond. Are they the team to beat, or could we see some more challenges? We got that 66 always looking for a win. We got his teammate up there. All sorts of names to keep our eye on, not just the FPM teammates.
When we started Daytona, I said, basically from the get-go, that we were going to have to watch the 22 team. And I think they're still the benchmark everybody's going to have to go after. We've seen the 66 run well. Unfortunately, he has yet to be able to close one yet, and I do believe that time is coming. But I honestly, despite being in the pipeline, was kind of surprised by A.F. Walsh, and not surprised by the speed, but I was surprised at how quick the results have come. Which leads me to believe that FPM, the truck team, is firing on all cylinders. I mean, granted, we may not have seen Curtis the way we probably wanted to see him at Richmond, but, you look at him, he's 7th in the standings. He's somebody you cannot count out until it's over. So I'm not necessarily going to say that they're not the team. I'm still going to have them as the number 1 bullet until we see somebody start to string together more runs. I'm looking at the 98 truck right now. John McFadden, the run that he had at Daytona, although he didn't win, and to follow it up with a decent run at Richmond, he could be one of the bullets that goes after Curtis this year. Obviously, we've seen the 66, and I think they're still the number 2 bullet behind Curtis. But, we'll see how it plays out today. This is good. This is the bread and butter of the season somewhat. The mile-and-a-half here at Atlanta. Granted, this track race is a little differently than some of the other mile-and-a-halves, but this is another one that could be like the gauge for us to see who's going to be that next bullet? Who's going to be the one to put it to Curtis, to put it to the 66, to put it to, McFadden or these other guys that are up there? So this could be a race where you could want to watch this just to see. You could see a championship contender come out of this race.
Absolutely, but as we can now bring you the starting lineup for today's 60-lap affair at Atlanta, none of the contenders, well, DJ Curtis does start 6th in this race, but we got a lot of outsiders making a name for themselves in qualifying today. Nate Champion gets pole position for this race in the BGB Motorsports 32 truck. He had a strong run here the last time we raced at Atlanta about 2 years ago, and now he starts on pole position. Josh Gibson lines up alongside him, Ludovic Charette, Jojen Stoyan, they make up row 2, and then the teammates, Wells and Curtis, in row 3. You got a couple superstar guys in the mix, Lane Sanders, Miles Mashburn, they start in the top 10 as well, but this is anybody's race, and I'm very looking forward to getting this underway, because really, you can win this race from anywhere. It's like a Daytona or a Talladega in that regard. It's a little harder to get up for the field than a Daytona or Talladega, but the opportunities are there to make passes no matter where you go. Hotlanta, time for to bring the action. It is Champion and Gibson on the front row. Green flag out in the air. We are racing at Atlanta, and it looks to be a pretty even start for the first 3 rows. It looks like Mitchell Carter in the 4 truck, who started 8th, is a little off the pace to start the race, but he's going to quickly fall in line as the field barrels it off in the 1 and 2 to get this great race underway.
We'll see what happens. Again, we're going to see this all day, the multiple lanes of this racetrack, so we'll see which lane prevails down here, down the back straightaway. This is the 31 looking now to the inside, trying to see if he can lead the first lap, and Wells poking his nose down there a little bit further, seeing if he can try to get the run here. As they come to the line, it'll be the 31 that'll lead the first lap.
Ludovic Charette, they lead lap number 1, first lap led of the season for the 31 team. Great stuff to see as Champion sends it all the way to the wall to try and get some momentum going. But it looks as though it's going to be David Wells out of turn 2 who gets the advantage. He pulls up in front of Charette. Now it's the 2 Crossroads teammates of Gray and Charette battling for second.
Now, like anywhere else,
this is just blistering pace we're seeing out of these cars right here. And Wells led that lap. It's a little... Yeah, we're waiting for the scoring to update, honestly, because these cars go by so quickly here. It takes a bit for our scoring to keep up. But at the rate they're going right now, Wells led that lap. Charette made their way back past to retake the lead of the race. And at this point, these 2 are starting to pull away from everybody else, but the rest of the field, they are 3 and 4 wide, several rows deep behind, scrambling to get as many positions as they can early on.
Now, early on here, the inside's going to be your preferred line early on here, but as we've seen sometimes with this racetrack, the high lane can work later into a run. But obviously here early on, when there's pretty much grip all around the racetrack. This is the first event of the weekend here, and there's grip all around the racetrack, so you see everybody, we are 3 wide pretty much from about, I believe it's about 7th place on back is where the 51 is running at this point, and we see Lane Sanders working the inside there in that 61. Of course, he's trying to have a little better result than his start at Daytona. Curtis there in the mix of that, and also our point leader, the one truck, a Chastain in the middle of that group too.
But one I'm keeping my eye on here is this 72, Miles Mashburn, making his 3rd start in a row in the Truck Series. He is not full-time this year. He's running full-time in the Superstar cars, but he's made his goal clear after Joshua Michaels became the first driver to win in all 3 series at Richmond. He is now trying to become the 2nd driver to do that and to keep it all within the Robbers Racing family. And he's making a good run at the front of the field. He started this race down in 9th place. He's already on the back of David Wells trying to get the lead away.
Remember I said in the pre-race about this, how much the drivers love this track, because you can pretty much run anywhere? Mashburn's proven that. Running the bottom, running the top, running the middle, doing what he needs to do to try to charge from his 9th starting spot. And there he goes to the outside of Wells. I think he will get the lead this time at the line, and he will firmly get it, as he does indeed lead this lap.
We're only 6 laps in. We're on lap 7 now, and we have had multiple leaders, multiple lead changes. This is the Atlanta people come here to see, and it's the Atlanta that these people love to come to every year to see these guys race and race well. And as we go off into turn 3, David Wells trying to make a run at Miles Mashburn, but he might have left himself on. Ooh, Mashburn slid a little bit up the track. That might let Wells get the lead back here, but I think Mashburn's going to get a little help from Charette to take the lead back.
Anyway, we'll watch this battle for lead. I'm watching a truck back there just behind these three. The white and yellow trucks. Samantha Jade, the 25, she started 14th in this race and has worked her way in basically for the battle for the lead here. She works right up behind Wells now. As, again, Mashburn and Wells was, here comes Jade down to the inside. They'll be 3 wide again this time into turn 3. And again, there's my point. 3 distinct grooves we're seeing on this racetrack, and all 3 are being competitive. The inside, middle, and the top, although it looks like the very top lane seems to be the one with the edge, but all 3 lanes working here.
And another truck I noticed popping up into the top 10. There you see it on the just dipping out of the right side of your screen. John McFadden in that 98. He started this race down in what I believe to be, I'm checking my scorecard, he started 23rd today, and he's already up into the top 10, as is AF Walsh, the Richmond winner. He started down in 25th. He's up into the top 10, 4 wide further back in the pack, but it's Wells that leads this lap.
Yeah, you mentioned Walsh. That was Walsh there on the inside of that 4 wide, so again, you can run just about anywhere on this racetrack, and we're seeing it right now with this early battle for lead and the early racing we're seeing, and this is why drivers love this track as much as the fans do, and you could pretty much run anywhere. You're not stuck behind anybody. It's more of a matter of, do you want to go to the front? Okay, here we go. And as we see the battle for the lead now, and here comes Jade from that 14th starting position. She will lead this lap.
Only took her 10 laps to get from 14th to the lead. That 25 truck might be a strong one over the course of the remaining 50 laps here at Atlanta. But Charette, this 31, has had a very strong start to this race, and this is the most experienced driver at Crossroads Racing, and they're only in their 2nd season of competition. Crossroads has their eye towards the future. They got Rose Gray, William Ayers, and Ludovic Charette pointing them towards the front end of the field. You see Gray battling just to get into the top 10, but it's Charette who leads this lap.
Yeah, I'm almost sitting back here a little bit as a fan and watching this because it's just amazing to watch them 3 wide.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing. We've got all of the Finguy-Psytomi trucks right on the bottom ringing the inside, but Wells pulls up to cover him off. Curtis sticking his nose in, and Walsh, all 3 of the FPM teammates now in the top half dozen.
And not only that, all 3, at least for that corner, look like we're running 3 different lines, too. It's, maybe out of the same stable, but that doesn't mean their trucks are working at the same spot. As Curtis threw a little bit of a block there to the 31, and he's going to try to, I think he thought about sticking his nose in there, but he's got experience. He's a champion. He knows, maybe I don't want to make it through wide this early yet.
No, but that opens the door for his teammate Walsh to stick his nose down in the battle for 3rd. Mashburn trying to retake the lead from David Wells in the 92. Mashburn, he's so determined to get a win this season. He's won in everything except this series, and he wants to get a win here to prove he is a top-level driver no matter what we drive in this sport. But it is Mashburn who leads this race. He's led pretty much the majority of the race so far. It's weird to say that considering how many lead changes we've had already. But he is under fire from all of the Finguy-Psytomi trucks. They are 2nd, they are 3rd, they are 4th, and they're all hounding the 72 for the lead.
And again, as I mentioned earlier, they're running 3 different lines, too. So it's not just that it's all 3 of them chasing them and all 3 of them, behind them. It's all 3 of them in 3 different lines. So it's like, which line does he block?
Yeah, and here's a run I'm very much impressed by. This Zero truck. Reggie Fogelman for Lightning Supersport. His teammate Mitchell Carter started in the top 10, but is backslid all the way back to 35th. The handling on that 4 truck, not perhaps where the team wants, but Fogelman's picking up the slack. He has started this race in 21st. He's now fighting for a spot in the top 10, and look who's just passed him on the inside. That's 66, always a threat at the front of the field.
Yeah, I think it won't be long before that 66 gets up here, too. Kind of taking him a little bit of a slow charge to get up through here, the way we've seen some of these other guys charge up through here. But Give him time. I'm sure he's taking his time, trying not to harm his stuff too much so he can get up here and play with these guys. So, but going back to the what you said about the 4 to 0, some of these guys, especially the surprises we saw in qualifying, may have just had their trucks more set up for qualifying than the race. And obviously, as we've seen in the race, we've seen Samantha Jade come from 14th. We've seen, Mashburn come from 9th. So you're going to see a lot of that today. Some comers and goers and guys that their trucks were better for a short run, and some guys might be better in the longer run. And we'll just see how it all sorts out here. Again, here comes that 66. He wants to play. He sees Curtis up there. He's like, hey, I'm going to go after him too.
And more importantly, he sees his teammate leading this race and his team owner leading this race. And he's thinking to himself, well, if I'm going to be a top-level talent in this series, if I'm going to contend for this championship, if I'm going to earn a promotion to the Nitro National Series perhaps for next year, I'm going to have to race my team owner hard for a win. And he's, so far, doing a great job. He's battling Lane Sanders and David Wells for that 3rd position, but this is why you never count out DJ Curtis. He started this race in 6th. He's always been at the front all day, and as we approach the 1/3 distance mark in this race, he ducks to the inside trying to get the lead.
Yeah, I think the one thing that was kind of, I wouldn't say it was necessarily disappointing, but it was like we didn't see a lot of them at Richmond, and I've seen some of the reaction was, where's Curtis? Where's the defending champ? Kind of like having an off weekend. But here's why. This is why this guy won the championship last year. This is why this team won the title last year. Just when you think, oh, they're having a bad string, here he is. Qualified 6th, running here in the top 5. And I will not be surprised if he's I will not be surprised if he's a factor for the win by the time this race ends.
And how about this hot pink truck, Audrey Anzac? She started down in 39th place and has only taken her 20 laps to get to the top 10. That 83 might have been one that is geared up for the longer run. She's maybe sacrificed qualifying to have a good race truck. That 83 is going places from 39th up to 7th already.
And we got a lead change. We mentioned the 66, and I mentioned when would he get to the front and how he wanted to get to the front.
Well, he's there now.
He had it briefly in the back straightaway until Mashburn took it back from him. But I'll tell you one thing: this lead group is actually accordion back together. They had, when it was just Curtis and Mashburn, it was just the 2 of them for a second. But this whole group is kind of accordion back together. So we have maybe 14, 15 trucks under this little blanket right now that's fighting for a position to be in the top 10, if not top 5, if not battling for the lead. So
yeah, and I'm seeing another contender who started way out back, the blue and white 77 up there, Johnny DiLorenzo. He started down in 37th position. He's now up in the top 10. He tried to make the Superstar race as well, didn't quite get there, but he's making up for it now with a very strong run here in the Truck Series.
As we look back at the front again, Mashburn, I think Mashburn right now...
Oh, we got trouble! It's DiLorenzo! Into the wall goes Nate Champion, and he's going upside down with a push from John McFadden. A big crash in turn 2. Oh, Kenyon then gets caught up as well. The 32 goes sliding along his roof onto the apron, and that is going to for sure bring out caution for the first time today on lap 22.
And on lap 22 is Truck 22 takes the lead.
Oh, William Ayers with a heartbreak. He's going to be out of this race. Kinnunen likely out of this race as well. Johnny DiLorenzo, I think he had a tire going down, which stacked him up in front of the whole pack.
I was going to say, for whatever reason or another, we caught it just briefly. Again, we'll see on the further replay, but his truck looked like it pretty much about stopped down in 1 and 2, and when you're running in a pack like this, it's like on a super speedway. You're running in a pack. If something happens in front of you, or the truck in front of you suddenly stops or loses its momentum, this is what can happen. And unfortunately for the 32 truck and those others involved, they were the innocent victims in this.
And John McFadden, his first DNF of the season, and he came when he was entered this race only 6 points out of the lead. This is really going to hurt him in the championship fight. But this, I believe, will give us the opportunity to see the pit crews in action for the first time today. Our first of 2 pit stops scheduled for this race. And here they come. Everybody on the pit road for 4 fresh tires and a full tank of fuel.
You should see everybody on here, and as you said, it should pretty much be 4 tires and fuel. You're not going to see any wild calls here because
the pace is slowed down by about...
It was a tire. tire management track.
Yeah,
it eats tires,
the pace had slowed down by about 2.5 seconds since the start of the race. So everybody is coming in for 4 fresh tires. You see Nate Champion at the head of pit road. He was your pole sitter today, but he is now out of the race with a big incident on lap 22. We'll see who wins the race off pit road. I think the 66 is going to get it.
Yep, 66 going to leapfrog the 22 here on the pits.
Ashburn loses a
getting
few
into the
spots
competition.
As well. Oh, and we got contact.
Contact.
Between Charette, between Wells, Chastain might have gotten a little
I was
bit.
going to say, Chastain, our point leader coming into the day, may have had a piece of that.
Yeah, as everybody else funnels their way out of the pit lane, we're going to get you a replay of what happened to put us under this first caution of the afternoon that's taken out at least 3 trucks, probably 4, and has impacted a lot of other trucks as well. It all starts right here, and Di Lorenzo was running in the top 10 at the time, but you said it, the car just slows dramatically. I think it was a tire going down, and it stacks him up into Nate Champion, William Ayers, and McFadden all pile in at the top of the track. Kinnunen hits Champion while upside down. Big impact for the pole sitter.
What concerns me more there is the impact between, it was the 11, the shot the 32 took from the 11, but get another look here and see that look, like, because that one definitely hurt for the 11 and 32 as well.
Yeah, Joshua Warren in the 88 also got a piece of this. In the 88, that's another one that got caught up in this. He'll be able to continue. A few others in this field, though, definitely not as lucky as he was.
You can see the Champion just going along here, just minding his own business, minding his own time, trying to do what he can in the pack, and that 77 slowed, he had nowhere to go. He runs into the back of him, just launched him up the track, and gets nailed, and he's alone for the ride at that point, and then gets nailed again. And again, just talking with people that have been involved in that, that's kind of the worst feeling, is knowing when you're upside down with your belts and you're just hanging there and you get hit again, and it's a bad feeling, but hopefully Champion looked like he was able to get out under his own power. So
yeah, and that's the second big impact he has had this season. Flashback to the Daytona 500 for the Superstar cars. He was in a big wreck there as well. But we have 1 lap to go to the restart. We have Paul Villalobos in the lead of this race. We've got 38 trucks still running, and they're all on the lead lap, which is the good news. The bad news is 4 are out of the race, one of which is John McFadden, one of our preseason favorites who entered today 3rd in points. He will definitely not finish this race 3rd in points.
Yeah, again, I said it over the kind of 2 races. I hate to say it, but you almost want to have issues, I think, earlier in the season when the points gaps are so small as they are, because it's easy to make up points. The problem is again, if you run into an issue, you lose ground so quickly. But again, as fast as McFadden's run this season, I don't think it's going to be that big a detriment unless they start to make a habit of it. Then that's when it's going to be a concern. But yeah, it sucks to have it happen for one race like this, but it's racing, you know. Sometimes you have the good days, sometimes you have the bad days. 66 leads them to the restart.
And we're back underway at lap 27 here at Atlanta. Villalobos and Curtis lead the way ahead of Lane Sanders and Samantha Jade, who ducked out immediately to the high side. That's going to open the door for Miles Mashburn to dip low, try and make his way back to the front of the field. He is wasting no time getting up there. He's got some help from Audrey Anzac, but Curtis pulls down the block. That's okay for Mashburn. He pulls up behind his teammate to try and get some runs going on the outside.
I'm anxious to watch the 72. We've seen the 72 already. Appears to, I think, possibly had the best truck so far, because he's been able to work his way, as we saw from the start of the race. He went from 9th to the lead. But we'll see if he can do that now with 2 other strong trucks up here, the 66 and 22. Can he again make a run back up here?
We check in on the back of the field, see everybody's pretty much up to speed. That's good to know. We don't have to park anywhere at this stage of the race. But it's DJ Curtis who's taken the lead back from Paul Villalobos, and he's brought Audrey Anzac up to the front as well. Villalobos, though, with a huge run on the outside, getting a push from his boss, Miles Mashburn, and Villalobos retains the lead at the line.
You see, Paul, I think, is kind of feeling like, hey, we feel like we had the best truck, or either best or second best truck in the 2 races that have been run so far this season. Why don't we maybe hang around and maybe not lead as much? Maybe we can end up winning one that way because, I mean, just the luck he's had. Daytona, they were running great and got into a wreck late. And Richmond, he looked like the class of the field early on, and then Walsh's truck came alive late in the race and was able to get around him late. So he's just looking for something to just go right for once and finally close one. So we'll see if it maybe is today, as it looks like his team owner is going to try to retake the lead from Curtis.
And meanwhile, we were checking on the fastest lap point. How about the Heatwave Automotive number 26 Ram? That team's making its first start of the season. They made a driver change over the off week. Brian Grigsby back in the truck series after a while away. He takes over the 26 ride, puts it into the field. He's got the fastest lap of the race, and by quite some margin. He's hanging out just inside the top 30 at the moment, but still, what a way to make a comeback and a statement in the process.
Hey, what a better way to make a statement saying that I should have a ride than going out there and setting a blistering lap,
And meanwhile, I hate to interrupt, but we're checking in on Ludovic Charette, who seems to have had an issue of their own on the racetrack. They are now a lap down and only about half a straightaway ahead of the leaders. So something must have gone wrong with that 31. You see them down in 38th, and that is a huge shame because that truck looked really fast early on.
Absolutely, but again, it shows you, one little moment happens and it could change your entire race. And we've seen it happen more than once in this series and more than once overall in just whether it's the trucks or the national cars or the superstars cars. We've seen it happen, and it sucks when you have a truck that's had speed like the 31 has shown today, that when it goes away, it almost makes it hurt more. So.
Yeah, but they will be back stronger than ever at Nashville next week for the doubleheader. But, you see Anzac getting a little out of shape on the inside. But there's a truck who's making the pass on Anzac we have not mentioned yet today. That red and white 91 of Justin Whitmer making some gains up in the field. He started this race down in 10th place, actually, but he fell back at the start. But he's definitely back at the front. He's making the pass on his teammate. Actually, all 3 of the New England Cruisers trucks now up in the top 10 as we're 3 wide for the lead.
Well, even Whitmer's teammate, Jade, coming back into the mix again. We saw her leader a little bit earlier, and I mentioned earlier she started 14th and came up into the mix. So, a lot of the guys that I think have the strong trucks are coming back to the front, as I also see our point leader coming into the Chastain is back there. But I think that's about the 8th position, maybe 8th or 9th right there.
He's battling Sanders for that 8th spot now.
And he's coming back in here. There's another one that we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Yep. And keep in mind as well, we're only about 10 to 15 laps away from these guys having to make their final pit stop. So expect a rush on the pit road coming to 10 to go or thereabouts. But that could very well change the outcome of this race. Whoever gets to pit road first, I think, is going to have a huge advantage.
And the other thing we'll have to watch, too, because of the nature of the racing at this track as well, if we get a caution in the middle of that cycle, it could change everything. So we'll have to keep an eye and make sure when we get to that we, of course, everybody wants to just give us a clean, green cycle and start it on the racetrack.
Absolutely, because if caution comes out that late in the race on a green flag pit cycle, you're not going to have any chance to recover from that. So these guys have got to keep their wits about them. Stay smart, stay calm, stay focused, and you'll make it through. But meanwhile, Mashburn's grown his lead. This is about the biggest lead we've seen all day. As Whitmer now moves up to second, Curtis starting to fall back a bit.
Yeah, so I do believe this 72 truck probably is the best truck right now, just from what we've seen him able to do. But again, we saw the coming together, I guess you could say the merging together of the trucks. Even when you had like 1 or 2 trucks out by themselves, they eventually accordion back together. So, and as I say that, it looks like we're starting to see that lead shrink just a little bit. So, it more than likely is going to happen again. And what we're going to have to watch is when they're in this pack 2 is as we get closer to that green flag stop, everybody's going to have to mitigate migrate down to the bottom lane to get ready to make pit road, or we could see issues. And like I said, nobody wants to see a yellow in the middle of green flag pit stops, but
yeah, absolutely.
It's a very real possibility.
And Miles Mashburn, he's not one to favor that sort of thing. He likes going flat out all the way. He likes not having to worry about tires or fuel or anything of that nature. But he's going to have to worry about it today if he's going to hang on to win this race. He's dominated this race. He's led the majority of the laps. But that's another hurdle he's going to have to get over if this is going to be his day. As we come now to 21 laps to go, Villalobos and Whitmer side by side for second behind Mashburn.
And like I was just saying, we see the interval now. The Mashburn had that big lead. Now look at it. Now it's down to basically under a tenth at the moment, there, at least the last time by. So this pack has definitely caught back up to him. It's just, so far we've yet to see anybody go around him yet. And again, maybe they're getting ready, get set for the pit stop. I don't know. It just could be the strategy that some of them are playing, is just try to stay close to the front, but be ready to dive to pit road when that time comes. So, as again, basically I think this is pretty much the battle of the Fords at this point. You got 4 Fords here with Curtis and Walsh, Whitmore and his teammate
Chastain, yeah,
our point leader Chastain.
But we've got 2 Chevys at the front of the field, and they've been the class of the field all day. So very interesting to see how this is going to play out as we're within the final 20 laps now.
And don't count out, there's another Chevrolet that's still in that mix. That 83 Van Zak is also still in the mix too.
And her teammate now, Braden Varga, has snuck his way into the top 10 as well. A part-time appearance from the 19. He could very well be in the conversation, as is the 0, a Fogelman. That's another Chevrolet.
So yeah, this is pretty much shaping up to where we're pretty much, I think we're gonna know who the players are gonna be once that last stop occurs. Once we know that last stop and everybody gets through it, we'll pretty much know from that point on who are contenders. Although right now it's anybody's guess. Obviously, outside of maybe the 72 and the truck he's shown today, it's pretty much anybody else's guess as to who's going to be the real challenger to him.
Yeah, absolutely. We're closing in on that final round of pit stops. I know we don't like talking about pit stops. We want to focus on the actual racing action, but it's going to be a really important factor in who wins this race, whether Miles Mashburn wants to admit it or not. But down the back straightaway we go. Whitmer comes up to block Villalobos down the back, and he's going to get a huge run in the 3. Mashburn covers him off, and AF Walsh has re-entered the conversation. That green 02 up in the 3rd.
Yeah, it's amazing to be watching this pack right now, and I know you mentioned him already, but I'm going to mention him again. That 19 of Varga, man, he started 28th in this race, and he's up here running with the lead pack. We got one off pace there. Is that Messi? The 3?
It is. I think he might have already made his final pit stop, because his lap times are showing that he was just on pit road. This is a bit of a gamble to come in this early, but he is going to have a huge offset compared to everyone else at this rate. What he can't afford now is a yellow.
Well, again, you can't afford, you don't want a yellow, but I can almost see the strat of what he did. He has nobody to contend with coming down pit road. You got no traffic on pit road. You can enter pit. You can basically, they set it up where they didn't want any traffic coming to pit road so they could have a nice, solid, clean stop, which they did. It appears they did, but
yeah.
The unfortunate thing is now at this point you're playing the waiting game.
And if you get a yellow,
making sure that you don't get a yellow.
Yeah, if you get a yellow at this point, your day is done. Even if the pit cycle cycles its way through and you get a yellow, that's game over for you as well. Because if that happens, you're going to line up in the lead probably, but you'll be a sitting duck compared to everyone else who's got 10 lap fresher tires than you.
You're basically hoping with that fact of just pitting like they did, pitting early, you want it to cycle through. You want this race to go green to the end, because make them have to run you back down.
Oh, yeah.
On their fresher tires. Now, granted, I think that is a risk in and of itself, because I think you lose too much time pitting that early.
Yeah, but put it this way, Messi wasn't going to win this race by doing that.
Again, that's exactly what I was going to say, is from their vantage point, you weren't a contender at that point. Why not try something
to make yourself
different from the leaders? Because if you it's the old adage, if you follow what the leaders do, you're basically going to follow the leaders to the end of the race.
Absolutely.
Try something different. It might work out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you won't know unless you try.
And I want to make a quick shout out before we get wrapped up in pit stops. Look at that yellow truck at the back of your picture. That 13. That is Max Brummer. That is the German rookie in Express Motorsports number 13. He started this race way down the order. He started down in 20th place. He has not been a factor all day, but now he's made his way up to the top 10 at a track type he will admit to you himself he is not the best at. So very strong run. He's the lead Mercedes at the moment.
And also, I think, or at least among the front runners, I think Anzac has the nod for the lowest starting in the field.
But
she started 38th or 39th in this race. Yeah, here we go.
Yep,
Proving time.
Brummer leads him on the pit road. That is a good call for him because he was not going to win this race by doing what everyone else did. Great call for pitting early. Then look at Francois Chastain. We haven't talked about him that much today, at the front anyway, but he's now fought his way to the lead as I think we're going to get another rush on the pit road this time.
Well, bear in mind, there is a reason why he is the point leader at this point, so he's going to the front when he needs to be going to the front, so...
Yep. And it looks as though everybody's coming in this time, but we only had 4 trucks stay on the racetrack that time around. It was Mashburn, it was Walsh, it was Curtis, and it was Fogelman. Those 4 are the only ones to stay out until lap 50. I don't think that's the winning move at this point.
I understand you want... Again, you can understand there's logic and reasoning to each strategy. The ones that pit early, you're trying to get the tire advantage early and try to gain your ground early there.
Yeah, but with
middle
so few...
Middle of the road is pretty much middle of the road. But this last group coming in, the idea is to have the freshest tires for the latest point in the race.
Yeah, but with so few laps left, will you get that advantage in time?
It depends on, again, we haven't really seen a difference in tires today other than maybe when the 3 pitting as early as they did.
Yeah, and he's going to be the leader when this is all said and done as well.
We haven't seen a true tire advantage yet, so I'm hesitant to say it can't work.
Right.
Because it might. It's just a matter of, especially when you're putting them on, the one truck I'm curious to watch doing this is the 72, because they pretty much have been the dominant truck today. That's why I really want to see what happens with them.
I hate to interrupt. I think we got caution on the Speedway, and that's why, for a big crash into turn 3, it is Rhodes Gray and it's Lane Sanders caught up on the infield. We are under caution right there.
It looked like the 92 may have been involved of David Wells as well. I mean, I saw him sitting at the top of the track.
Oh, so. Bedard, the 2, not again. This is going to be a second DNF in 3 races, and that is not the way you want to get this season started. Heartbreak for that 2 team. But this is ruined Santi Messi's race right here with this yellow.
Well, what's going to be interesting now is with so few laps left.
Can he hold on for those few laps?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm thinking is there's only going to be, once they get this sorted out and cleaned up, we're only going to have maybe 6 laps to go. Maybe at best 6. So... Again, I still look at the dominant trucks that are going to be on the fresh tires, but again, we'll wait for timing and scoring to sort out, see where everybody is, and also where the lap trucks get put, because remember, we're going to be less than 10 laps to go, too.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to move to the front, but I think Max Brummer might be in the catbird seat here. He's on fresher tires than the 3, and he'll restart second. That could be a really good opportunity for the German to get his first career win today.
Absolutely. 13's got an opportunity. The 08 may have an opportunity here.
Absolutely.
But again, before we get a replay, I'm wondering if what happened is if they were blending off a pit road, and we've seen it happen before with certain pit roads. If they were blending off pit road, you got people in fresh tires trying to make up time.
Yeah. That
Somebody
very well
probably
could be the case.
Coming off pit road.
That very well could be the case, and that results in Lane Sanders posting his second DNF in his DNFs in both of his races this year. Heartbreak for him, as we're going to get you a replay here shortly. Yeah, I think you're right. Oh, no. Lane just crossed up in front of Rogers right there, and that touched it all off right there.
Yeah, they just got hooked together going down the back as they were trying to get back on the racetrack.
Oh, Cody Goforth had a very near miss in that wreck in the 24.
And I said, Wells spun it the 92. I don't know if he got clipped, but he spun it around too, so... Yeah,
I wonder, though, if the officials are going to be taking a look at Jeremy Rogers for maybe kind of not giving Lane Sanders enough room there to blend back up. That might be a penalty coming his way post-race. But that is a tough way for Lane Sanders to end his season in the trucks this year.
Yeah, they're just coming off a pit road, and again, it looks like one held his line and Lane started to move up, and again, at that point, it's like you're coming off pit road. Wait till you're on the racetrack to race. I understand you're trying to keep your competition, try to keep an advantage there, but
yeah. So
it's better to race and have it settle in on the racetrack than get together coming off pit road and end both your days.
Yeah. Well, that begs the question: who do you blame, Lane or Rogers?
It's hard to say without hearing the spotter audio.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to hear. I don't know what Lane's spotter told him. If Lane's spotter told him he was clear, then it's on his spotter.
Yeah, well...
But at the same time, the other truck, if you know he's coming up and you know you guys are blending off pit road, you got to at least have a little... I understand it's less than 10 laps to go and you're trying to keep any advantage you get. But at the same time... we got an issue maybe with 72?
Yeah, I think they might have missed... I think he's got a tire issue on that thing, and maybe they didn't... on the pit stop, maybe they didn't get it fully tight all the way for the 72. That is going to kill his day. He led 27 laps of this race. He's sure not going to win it now.
Yeah, I honestly think he probably had the best truck in this race, too. So this is going to make this even more interesting, because the first one on that late strategy...
It's going to be DO2.
I'm not sure
DO2
who it is.
of Walsh.
Is it Walsh? So, yeah, we'll have to watch and see. We're going to have... 5 laps to go. And Walsh is restarting from the 8th position. So, again, we talked about at the start of the race. We talked about people being able to come through the field, at least at the initial start, and that was without a tire advantage. So, yeah. We'll see. 5 laps to settle it. We'll see what happens.
And we've got some guys I think Santi Messi is going to be a bit of a sitting duck on this restart. He's got about 10 to 15 lap older tires than everybody behind him. He's just got to hope for another yellow to happen pretty quickly.
At this point, he's looking at a gain right now from where he was running prior to pit. All he wants to do is get better than where he was running at the end of this race for 5 laps. He could finish 7th or 8th. If he was running 15th, 16th prior to that call, it's still a win. So, we'll just have to see. Five laps here at this race is the way racing we've seen. Who knows what can happen.
Well, the green flag's back in the air, and Messi did not get a good launch off the line. They're all piling up on the outside to pass him by. Max Brummer to the race lead. With Lane Saylor, Francois Chastain, they're all powering past the 3. Could this be the Germans' day?
I don't know, because he's going to have a hungry group coming behind him, and I'm watching the 1 truck's back there, the 66 is back there. The 25, as we said, the 02 with that tire advantage.
Yep, here comes Blaine Saylor to the lead. We haven't mentioned him all day, but now he's in position, but he might lose it to his teammate.
Keep an eye on that 25 truck of Jade, too. I mean, that's another one I've seen that's been able to work traffic right, and like the truck behind her, that 58 truck, too, that's been kind of off and on near the edge of the top 10 today.
He started outside pole, remember. Did Josh Gibson. He could be in the mix for his first career win, as Ansack now takes the lead, powers down the back straightaway.
But again, here comes the tire advantage. Again, here comes the 02. Here's that strategy. We talked about it.
Oh, yeah. He is making gains, and he is making them quick. We're coming to 3 laps to go, as Miles Mashburn, again with a problem with on pit road. He's going to lose a lap as a result, and that's really going to mess his day up. Could A.F. Walsh win back-to-back races in the first 3 races to start this year? I mean, the tire advantage he's got right now, he's going to be the leader here coming to 2 to go as he works around Anzac. But he's going to have to contend with that 66. We said Paul would be a factor before the end of this thing. He's dominating races and hasn't been able to win one. Can you win one without dominating it? Well, that was his teammate who dominated today, Miles Mashburn, who is now back on track, 35th place. He's not going to win today. But we're coming to the white flag right here. Anzac starting to fade. It looks as though it's going to be a battle between the same 2 guys we had at Richmond battling for the win there. They're going to be battling for it again today.
Paul knows he felt the race may have been taken away from him last week because the late charge of Walsh. He's going to have one lap to try to do to Walsh what Walsh did to him last week. Last lap at Atlanta.
Deja vu all over again as Paul Villalobos powers it off in the turn one. He cuts it low on Walsh to try and take the lead away. This could be the move for the win right here.
This could be it. Can he hang on and actually do it? Will this be the 66th first win of the year, or will the O2 have a counter move to that move?
He tried it, but Villalobos shut the door on him. So for 3 and 4 for the final time. Paul Villalobos, we knew he was going to be strong this season. He has finally achieved that goal of his from the start. He is a winner for the first time in his career, and he does it with a last lap pass at Atlanta. You couldn't script it any better than that.
Talk about a way to win your first one. I said the first 2 races he had, probably not the dominant truck at Daytona, but he definitely had the dominant truck last week. And unfortunately, in both races, things happened to keep him from winning it. Not today. Today, he's the one that's going to be hosting the trophy. He makes the right move at the right time.
Absolutely. What a
What more can you
drive.
say?
Walsh comes up just short in second, but that's going to really help his point situation in that 0-2. Josh Gibson on the podium, 3rd place. What a run for him. And Jeremy Rogers touched off that wreck on about 10 laps ago. He brings it home in the top 5. So, all's well that ends well, I guess, for Jeremy Rogers. Francois Chastain brings it home 6. Another top 10 for the one team. That's going to keep him in the points lead after this race is all said and done. But you got to give a round of applause to Paul Villalobos. He timed his move to perfection and then prevented AF Walsh from mounting a charge back past him.
He was like, you got me in Richmond last week, but I'm getting you this week. And he managed to pull it off. And I guarantee you, he's going to be a contender. Although we did see Curtis get a top 5 out of this race, we could have ourselves a repeat of last year's championship battle. So
Absolutely.
hold tight. We're going to have a heck of a season this year, I think.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, from Ryan Griffin and from myself as well, thanks for joining us for a wild day at Atlanta. 21 lead changes today. That is a record for the season. And we're going to look forward to next week where we've got 2 races for the price of 1 at Nashville Super Speedway. That's right. It's the annual doubleheader inversion weekend for the Truck Series. That is going to be a whole lot of fun with its own set of challenges out in Nashville. So, until we see you then, so long from Atlanta. Congrats to Paul Villalobos. Finally, after all his time of waiting, gets the monkey off his back with a dramatic last lap pass on his old foe AF Walsh to score the big win here in the ATL.